Our meeting will now come to order. The time is 6:30, and everyone is present except for Melissa Roberts. Tonight's purpose is the discussion of the May 19th regular board meeting agenda items. Dr. Randall?
Madam Chairman, the first item on the agenda is consider approval of out-of-state student trip requests. And we're asking that the Board of Trustees approve out-of-state trip requests for Lamar Consolidated High School to attend the National Skills USA VICA contest in Louisville, Kentucky on June 20th through 25th. The approximate cost of the participation is $14,000.
Are there any discussions?
Next item on the agenda is consider approval of out-of-state student trip requests, that the board approve out-of-state travel for Lamar Consolidated High School, George Ranch High School, Lamar Junior High School, Antoinette Redding, Briscoe, Career and Technology Education, and non-CTE students that have qualified to travel to the Technology State Association National Contest in Nashville. Again, these groups have to qualify for participation in the program, and the approximate cost for the group to participate is $70,000.
Any discussion?
Next item is consider approval of out-of-state student trip requests, that the Board of Trustees approve out-of-state travel and transfer appropriate funds for Foster High School and George Ranch High School speech and debate to attend the 2016 National Forensic League Tournament in June in Salt Lake City, Utah. And the approximate cost for that participation is $17,992.
And Madam Chairman, I just have a point of curiosity. These are funded out of district funds. Sometimes they're funded by fundraisers and parents. And I was just curious, how do you make the designation? How do you decide who gets funded by the district and who has to sort of pay their own way?
In some instances, the district funded is coming out of federal funds and not necessarily the general funds. And sometimes out of the campus activity funds, which are the campuses have different ways of raising funds that they will also use for funding these types of trips. And what did I leave out?
Some of them are funded out of instructional budget if we put in Function 36, the extracurricular, so between a combination of those sources.
So it depends on the type of event they're attending that will help determine the source of funding? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And one of them also is that when you are participating in above district competition, if they're just going to Florida for a trip of some sort, the district does not pay for that. Okay. But if they win and then they get their district area at the state and the national, some of those dollars are offset.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for clearing it up.
I think I had another question, because I think this time it's like over $150,000 all total. For CTE, it said it was coming out of their fund.
CTE, if the students are enrolled in a CTE class and they qualify, their expenses are paid out of CTE funding. We do have some students that participate in TSA Nationals that are not enrolled in a CTE class, but they still enter in their events. When the non-CTE kids qualify, then the campus will support their budget for going. So it's a combination between CTE and the campus, in particular to the TSA trip.
So with the record that they have, which is extraordinary in some of these things, do they kind of budget this ahead for the school in hopes that we'll get that far?
Yes, and so when, for example, for this year, when it came down to paying for the non-CTE students, and I'll use the Maroon Track as an example, we knew how many non-CTE qualified a year ago this time and roughly what it cost. So when they do the budget, they kind of earmark that money for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the others are learning to do that too, so, yeah.
And then I had one more question, if y'all guys know. On the chaperones from the different schools, the sponsors, there's one couple here that's sponsoring. They're going 1 week and they're immediately going to another event the following week. How do y'all pick the sponsors?
I think you're talking about probably the foster sponsors. They're going to the theater camp, and they're also going to the debate.
Right,
They coach both of those.
Both of those.
and so
because they're
those-
the coaches.
Mhm, mhm. Okay, yeah,
All right, thank you.
okay.
The next item is out-of-state travel for Foster, George Ranch, Lamar, Terry Theater to travel to Lincoln, Nebraska for the International Thespian Festival, an individual event showcase competition. And again, the mere fact that we're having this conversation is a huge testament to the quality of the programs. And our kids are doing very well, not only statewide, but nationally. Next item on the agenda is consider approval of the agreement for educational services between Lamar Consolidated and Fort Bend County Juvenile Detention Center. We're asking that the board approve this. This is an agreement that we approve annually. And as has been indicated, we have two other school districts that participate with us.
That's basically the same as last year.
Yes,
There's not been
ma'am.
any changes.
Right.
Yeah, it worked. You come back and forth. Just get some exercise.
And the next agenda item is what I got ahead of myself. This is the MOU that we have. We're mandated to have a JJAEP, and we share that cost with Neatville and Katy, and this MOU is basically the same as it's been in years past.
Any discussion?
Next item is consider approval of an interlocal cooperation agreement with Equal Opportunity Schools. And we're asking that the board approve this interlocal agreement in the amount of $100,000 to authorize the superintendent to execute the agreement. If you will recall, we shared with the board the program that's being implemented at Lamar and at Terry High School, where we are encouraging kids to take AP courses. And you'll also remember, I think we've increased the number to over 300 since participating in this program. And so we're asking that the board approve this, which will also expand it to the other high schools.
One of my favorite questions, what's the source of funding? What budget does this come out of?
The source of funding will be Title II federal funds.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is consider approval of nominations of candidates for positions on the Texas Association of School Boards. This item is just requested annually, and during the time for nominations. Doesn't mean the board has to take any action on this, but it is there if you choose to nominate someone.
Excuse me, Dr. Renzo, did we skip number 4, page 63?
I probably did.
I mean, 56.
No, I did.
63, I'm
Page
sorry, 63.
Consider
Yeah,
approval of MOU between Houston Galveston Institute and Lamar Consolidated. And we're asking that the board approve the MOU for counseling and with the Houston Galveston Institute Counseling and Lamar CISD for no-cost mental health services provided for students and families, and authorize the superintendent to execute.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question. Who requests these services? I mean, we have, how do you find out somebody need these services, and who in the district would request that they be provided these services?
The services are provided through the counselors at the different high schools. This was previously funded through the DePelchin Center. They were losing their funding, so we decreased from counselors to support all 4 high schools to just 1 high school. The Wessendorf Foundation is picking up the tab so that we'll be able to provide those services at all 4 high schools now. They typically are for students who are in crises. Some of them, we have 85 students in the district right now who have what are called SAFE plans, who have indicated are actively engaged in suicidal behaviors. And so they are available. These are certified counselors that are available for the kind of therapy that students need.
Okay, great, thank you.
I have a question. When you get to these students, is it short-term, or is someone like assigned to them to carry on through their years in high school?
I think that depends on the individual situations, but no child is going to be dismissed from services without being dismissed to another option of services, particularly if they have a safe plan. Students who have a safe plan, they work very carefully with both that student and with the parents until the danger is past. So,
I'm assuming you're keeping close records of that?
Yes,
For
we
each
do.
individual
Yes,
family,
we do.
too?
Yes, ma'am.
Are the teachers involved in this also?
When it's significant, when it's relevant for them to be involved.
All right, thank you.
Next item is, we're asking the board to ratify the financial and investment reports. This is the report that read this update monthly.
Any questions?
The next item is, we ask that the board consider approval of budget amendment requests. And we have several budget amendments that we're either changing functions or we are changing functions. And if we have any questions, we can ask them.
On the page 73, $100,000 for vehicles. We purchase those for the Rosenberg Police Department, and then do we turn those over totally to them, becomes their asset instead of ours? Or
They're
maintain-
our
Maintain on our
assets.
books, our
Yes.
assets.
Yes,
Yes.
Okay, that's in addition to the $1 million contract we have them to provide services.
Right.
Okay.
that's correct.
Getting an extra vehicle, does that mean we get another officer?
There will be one more officer assigned at the new campus at Fulshire, and then one is a replacement vehicle for an
Replacement,
older.
but an
vehicle.
officer will be going with that vehicle, a new
Yes,
one?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And you can stay there, Jill.
Yes, I know.
we're-
I know. I just parked, right?
We're asking that the board consider designation of Patsy Schultz by interlocal agreement as a tax assessor collector for LCISD. And we have a adjustment to the contract that we just received today, just a sentence change.
The stapled ones are the ones for the board and Dr. Randall, and the ones at the clips are the signature ones for after a while. Okay, so this is our standard collection agreement with Fort Bend County. They prepare and mail our tax statements to taxpayers every year, and they also handle our collection process. Ms. Schultz contacted me today and asked me if we could make one revision to the contract, and I asked for her to give us an updated or revised contract, which Karen is passing around to you all. If you will turn to section 3.09, it's on page 3 of the contract, and I've highlighted it in pink. The county typically collects and remits taxes to the district weekly. But what they're asking us to accommodate them with is during peak tax season, they'll continue, I think I said that wrong. They collect and remit taxes to us daily. What they're asking us to do is during peak tax season to continue remitting to us daily. But when we're outside of tax season, when tax collections are slower, they want to remit to us once a week, at least once a week. And a lot of that is because we also have refunds that they process to taxpayers for us. And in the slow time, they don't have enough tax collections to also process those checks. So we have to cut checks to them so that they can cut checks to taxpayers. So it's a cash flow thing, and it's not going to cause us any problems, so we agreed to it. So that's the only change to the agreement. Otherwise, it's the standard agreement.
Next item on the agenda is approval of the 2016 historic site exemption for Kendallton.
This is the Kennelton Heritage Society. It's a historic museum. They're asking for tax relief on a property valued at $55,930. Tax relief is approximately $777.
I'm just curious, it said 3 properties, but it only listed one.
I'm sorry, they typically do ask for 3, they cut this to 1 this year.
Okay.
It should say 1.
See, I confuse these.
I'm sorry. I should have had 1.
On their exemption, that step 3, it says describe property. They use a P.O. box as the description of the property.
On the second
Is that just a
line,
glitch?
on the second line, the 0058, I'm a Prairie Acres, that's actually the property description, and then it's got the county's identifying number.
So there's no physical address. On step 3, it says describe property
Yeah,
for which
I
you are
see what-
seeking an exemption.
I see what you mean, and this is typically what she puts
So
on this
just
form.
like out of habit.
Yes.
Could we get that?
It probably doesn't have a mailbox. You've got a location, it's got a lot in a section, but you have to receive mail
Not a
someplace.
physical-
You may
well,
not have a
it's-
physical receipt.
That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
And the actual identifying
It's on the front.
is listed there as well. I mean, you have to go to the webpage or if you
Right,
want
if
to
you
pull
went
it
to
up.
I didn't
if you
know
went
where
to
it
the
was.
CAD's website, you would look up the R35548.
Okay, I just wasn't sure what it was. Okay.
The next item is consider approval of an interlocal agreement with Region 6 Education Service Center for Epic 6 Purchasing Cooperative and authorize the board president to execute the agreement.
Are there any questions?
The next item is approve the purchase of 3 vehicles from Caldwell Chevrolet, Lake Country Chevrolet, in the amount of $118,503. And we're looking at 2 Chevrolet 3500s and 1 Chevrolet 3500 heavy-duty diesel.
I was just curious why we didn't have local dealers. They didn't respond to this, or just, these are all out of county someplace here?
We did solicit to all of our local vendors, so we do that quite aggressively. Some of them can't match some of the specifications. These are all pretty heavy-duty vehicles for the maintenance division, and then we're asking for some additional equipment. May not have been in their inventory, and they may have chose to overlook it or to pass on it, but we do aggressively market to local vendors.
Like when I bought my pickup truck, I wanted a work truck, and they had to go to Port Arthur to get it.
Yes. You need a luxury vehicle, and local guys can totally hook you up.
I have
Yes.
one more question,
Yes.
just out of curiosity. Do we have a vehicle like this at the present ag
Yes.
facility, equivalent to this?
Well, not at the ag facility. Each campus has a truck that's designated to that campus along with a livestock trailer. So this vehicle will be for the Fulshear campus, and then we will be partnering that with a livestock trailer. It's appropriate to the program.
Okay.
This is in our O&M budget?
I'm sorry?
This is our, part of our O&M budget, or is this?
Well,
special?
the 2 vehicles for maintenance are coming out of their local budget, and then the vehicle for the ag department at Fulshear is coming out of bond money for that
Okay.
program.
Thank you.
Okay, now the 2 Chevrolets from Caldwell,
Yes.
they're coming in at $38,990 apiece. They've got service bodies on them. Shouldn't they be more expensive than the other one that's $40,000?
It depends on each of the specifications. They were very different vehicles. I can pull the exact specifications that we sent out to the vendors for you if you'd like to take a look. But I know that the vehicle for the ag truck was specific in that it needed to have trailer accommodations, and it was a dual package. It needed to be a heavy-duty trailer pulling package to be able to support the livestock trailer and the weight of the livestock in there. With the Caldwell County vehicles, or the Caldwell County Chevrolet vehicles, those are going into our maintenance department, and while they do have those conversion kits to add for the equipment, they were able to package the deal together nicely for us. And they are larger vehicles, but it was all part of the packaging that they received from the manufacturer that allowed them to make these aggressive prices.
Okay, now just out of curiosity, how many bidders did we have on these vehicles?
You see all the bidders that are listed there. Those were all of the responses that we received.
If they don't respond, nothing we can do about that.
We bring them to the water, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, the next item is approval of all vendors who responded to the proposal for athletic and training supplies for the district.
No questions?
The next item is consider approval of HVAC, and we're asking that the board approve Texas Air Systems for a 3-year term contract for district-wide HVAC full coverage maintenance and service.
Any questions?
Yeah, anytime you say full coverage, that usually means parts also if something goes out. Is that included?
Actually, I believe the parts are included in this particular contract.
Our full HVAC contract does include parts as long as, for equipment for the HVAC system, unless it's like a chiller that's 15 years old out of ASHRAE standards that we know about, then that would not be covered.
Okay,
Everything
and-
else is covered, yes, sir.
Now, this amount that's here, that's not for 1 year, that's for the total of 3 years?
Yes, sir.
That is a 3-year term, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next item is approval of engagement of the certified public accounting firm of Whitney Penn as the district's independent auditor for the 2015-2016 school year.
Are there any questions?
The next item is consider approval of a resolution regarding the closure of schools on Monday, April 18th and Tuesday, April 19th, and authorize the superintendent to revise the calendar as necessary and apply for the Texas Education Agency waiver for 2 missed instructional days and authorize the payment of employees. We could not apply for the waiver until the board approved this resolution. And the commissioner indicated that he would approve up to 2 days. So we feel like once the board approves this on Thursday, Jill will go in the next day and apply for the waiver with the commissioner.
This also covers the employee.
This covers the employees for those missed days as all employees.
Plus payment of overtime for the hourly ones that did have to actually come in and work.
Thank you.
The next item is consider approval of after-school care facility rental agreement with Gingerbread House Daycare Center for Bentley Elementary during the second semester of the 2016-17 school year.
Are there any
And Jill,
questions?
Just briefly, all of the students that will ultimately go to Bentley are going to be at Hubenack for the fall semester. So we felt it was in the best interest of the children to assign the daycare program to the same provider that's at Hubenack in the fall. So this will be a 1-semester agreement or rental. And the typical fee for an economically disadvantaged campus is $3,125. For one that's not designated ED, it's $12,500, so the rental will be half of that. This is, again, a 1-semester rental, so that this contract will end at the same point in time that the rest of the provider contracts will end.
Next item on the agenda is approve the order authorizing the conversion of LCISD variable rate unlimited tax schoolhouse bond series. And I'll stop right there. I think you know what.
In 2014, we sold bonds, and a portion of those bonds were variable rate bonds in the amount of $90 million. There was an initial rate period of 2 years set where we had a rate of 2%. That rate period ends on August 15th of 2016. which means that we have to remarket those bonds, which means we'll have another new rate set for the next 2 years. This order will also make a few other changes to the conversion agreement and some of the other agreements, and also authorizes us to put a remarketing document together. And that's about it.
What's the market look like?
Well, Terrell thinks we might be able to get a rate around 1%. Or a yield of 1%.
Yeah.
So.
Fantastic.
The next item on the agenda are donations to Adolphus, Frost, and Hutchinson. The next item is approve the facility program and authorize design to begin for the practice pools, and we have a presentation for you.
Good evening. This will be for approval of the program for the pre-practice pool. The building committee has been working on for about 3 months to try to get that scope down as tight as it could be. We're going to do a presentation on what the program is looking like, what the scope of the work would be. There has been no design other than a concept of a floor plan. With your approval Thursday night, we're asking for authorization to proceed with design. So I'm going to let Trey Snyder review the program.
Very good. Thank you, Steve. Madam President, Board of Directors, Dr. Randall, we're grateful for the opportunity to be here this evening. We'll quickly roll through. If you have any questions, feel free to stop me. But first of all, we're grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight. We'll go through the programming that Steve mentioned we've discussed with the administration and staff from each of the campuses. As far as the programming phase, the plan was to develop a program of required spaces with regards to the high school swimming programs as well as the district-wide fourth grade swimming program. The scope was having a practice pool at Fulshear, Foster, and George Ranch High Schools. Site plans. The site plans, the first at Foster High School, we spent a lot of time. A lot of this had to deal with safety. These pools are accessed both before school hours, during school hours, and after school hours, both by high school students as well as the fourth grade programs. We discussed multiple options at each of the campuses. What we're showing you tonight are what were the final choices. At Foster High School, baseball and softball sit here. This was laid out, when this plan was laid out originally, this was a practice baseball and a practice softball complex, which they don't use, and so the decision was to actually locate the pool in the back. At Fulshear High School, the plan is so we have a future 6th grade campus. This is the high school, so the main entry coming in. So the practice pool is actually situated adjacent to the high school. And at George Ranch, it would be at the far south end of the campus, adjacent to the high school, down at this end. And again, a lot of this had to deal with how we're going to access each of the campuses. We are looking to put 50 parking spaces at each, so that there's close parking both for the students as well as if there are small training events. The floor plan. So as far as equity goes, Terry High School has a 25-yard by 25-yard pool. So these 3 pools are set up the same way. The configuration is a little bit different because of the fourth grade program. So there was a lot of time spent actually discussing how the pool would be laid out and for training purposes. And so with concurrence from each of the athletic staffs at each of the high school campuses, the discussion was for training purposes and even for small events, there would be 7 competition lanes, and then the light shaded blue area is where the fourth grade swimming program would be. There's a lot of discussion because of the depth of the pool. This is actually shallow. Obviously, this is a much deeper end. We'll show a blow up of it, but as far as looking at the overall floor plan, this side is more of support services. We have the coaches' offices in this location, and then we have restrooms and locker rooms that are down on this side. So in looking at it a little bit closer, one of the key points was actually trying to separate the restrooms for the boys and girls as well as for the athletes, for the student athletes. So presently they share a lot of these facilities. So the intent is in this location is so these would be for men and women's restrooms, so that there was any small competitions, this is where they would utilize the facilities. These also will double as for the 4th grade program. We have benches and hooks around the perimeter. So we basically have a boys' dressing room and a girls' dressing room. And the intent is so that they would not have to go in and share the high school girls' locker rooms and the boys' locker rooms. And so those two would be separated. And then you see the coach's office, and then they will have their own changing area and locker room in the back. So the pool configuration, it's critical that 6 foot 7 inches as far as the depth for competition and for training purposes. This would be the 7 swim lanes, and then the 3 foot 6 level would be at this end. In a number of months back, there was discussions about could you actually do flip turns in 3 foot 6. You can, but it's awful dangerous. So the idea was we could push these off, and so they were. The coaches were good with actually having 7 foot lanes. A lot of times in your major competition pools, the lanes will actually be wider, but from a training standpoint, it functions very, very well. This gives you a quick cross section. So there's, as far as your 7 practice competition lanes, there's actually an 8th lane, but this is in the transition zone that goes from your 3 foot 6 elevation down to your 6 foot 7 inch elevation. So what we're offering is almost 19 feet of an area for them to actually train, and so for the 4th grade program. In the back of the booklet, there's a program that actually goes through what we worked hard is in trying to make sure that we stayed within the budget guidelines is keeping the pool as efficient and the practice facility as efficient as possible. You can see key pieces are going to be there's 60 lockers in each of the boys and girls locker rooms. You'll see just the support facilities, but we've got roughly a 16,000 square foot facility, about as tight as we could squeeze for that 25 by 25 yard facility. And then in closing is that we're very comfortable with the fact that we are well within the budget of what was outlined for these 3 pools.
This is the total project budget. Both PBK and ourselves have done cost modeling to make sure that we're within the budget. We don't have a detailed design yet, so we're dealing with some macros, but we actually have a detailed cost estimate that validates that we can do this project within the budget. We still have a lot of work to do and a lot of details you have to follow, but we are prepared.
Well within the budget or within the budget?
Well within the budget.
All right. There's been a couple of questions popped up about why no diving boards, deeper pool diving. I think you made them.
One of the things that we talked about was these are practice pools, so the diving would not be at these sites. The diving as well as larger meets would be at the natatorium. It keeps the pool depth shallower, and I think the diving was with the coaches was not something that they needed at all sites.
And they don't need 8 lanes, they only need 7 for a lot of these smaller meets or whatever they're doing. And I know sometimes, doesn't our district get other aquatic
Meets.
Meets
Yeah.
from other
This was intended for practice. What the coaches feel like is very viable with 7 lanes is they can have two teams meet, so them and a visiting team can meet. Once you get past 2, having a 3rd team, it would then necessitate moving to the natatorium. So the 7 lanes was talked about quite a bit, and we had all we had all the swim coaches, the athletic directors, aquatics director. Everybody was involved in that discussion to make sure that it was right. We also worked very hard to make sure this was scaled down as tight as possible. And this started out larger, but we're not bringing it to you with a larger one. This is about where the scope needs to be.
And in reality, you can do the flip turns in the 3 foot 6. We used to do it in 3 foot. It is possible.
Right, right. It is, and so the nice part was the compromise was going to the 7 foot lanes so that we kept it off to the side. So it accommodated the program very well.
You may not be the right ones to ask, but the 4th graders, is that a year-round training? Did they go there, or is that just a few months, or How
That's actually
often do they
good.
use?
They usually go 13 to 14 days. Next year, they will attend 1 day of training on campus, and so that will limit it to about 12 days, 12 to 13 days off campus.
For
That
every
they will be
elementary.
using the training pool out of a year, 12 to 13 days?
It rotates between campuses. Right now, we're using the natatorium and the natatorium at Terry. So next year, what they're going to do is I've just gotten a schedule where each school goes for about 13 days to one of the natatoriums. And this rotates throughout the year.
So now we're spreading it out, including the natatorium. The two
We're
natatoriums we
doing it in
have.
the natatorium now.
We'll still be using those two?
It's my understanding, yes.
Okay. So basically, probably 2 months out of the school year, we'll be using those lanes for the fourth graders?
No, they're going to have to
Longer than
rotate them
that?
out. It's going to take much longer.
No, and I don't understand the specifics after they get it built, but I'm assuming that they're going to be, like Hubenack would go to the one closest to Hubenack instead of coming all the way into town.
So it'd be maybe like 3 elementary schools would be able to go to Fulshire, 3 schools could
Yes,
go to
ma'am.
another school.
How many
Grade-
of
grade to a
those
natatorium.
fourth grade coaches or teachers do we have that teach the swim lessons? Does one person do it all, or do we have multiple?
How many teachers do you have at the natatorium?
No, for the
Fourth
fourth
grade
grade swim
swimming.
program, how many?
Do you know that?
We have, at each of our facilities right now, we have a licensed teacher, a certified teacher, and then we also have a WSI who does who can do the swim instruction as well.
And they're currently, all of the schools are rotating in with him now. Now, with the opening of these other facilities,
We
we'll
try to
have
keep them.
additional staff that will support them.
Right, we'll have to stop.
Yeah, so that was my next question. Are we planning on staffing an additional
Yes.
staff?
So you will, though, at the new practice pools, be able to use that area a lot more after the fourth graders are finished?
Yes.
Okay.
Once upon a time, we didn't have as many elementary schools. I believe the program was longer. It was,
That may have been true.
it used to go 3 weeks.
And they've cut it down.
They've cut it down. And, I mean, it almost got to the point of only,
And it goes year-round. The schedule that I got today
right.
starts.
They usually
like
start
almost
right
the
after
first day of
school starts, and they go
and
to almost the end of
end.
school.
Well, what's the amount of time that they spend in the pool?
Not very long.
It's not very long. I want to say around an hour.
And it takes them
It all-
maybe
the
45 minutes to get them,
transportation
depending on what school they're coming
Depends on the
from?
location of the school.
Well, the practice pools, couldn't it?
It will.
It
be-
will lengthen the time they can stay
Correct.
at the pool, because they won't have to travel as far if they're going to the pools in their specific
Correct.
areas. So that they can have maybe more quality instruction, or quantity and quality.
And Dr. Harrell said that.
What,
Okay.
what is the depth required to have a block?
I'm sorry?
What is the pool depth required to have a block? So I know you don't have one in the slant area, in the
So-
slope. What is the depth requirement for a block?
Well, the preferred depth is 6'7" inches. They can technically swim in 3 feet 6, but it's awful shallow.
Well, no, I mean,
Right.
to have another block, another competition lane. So right now you have 7 blocks. So you don't have a block in the slant lane or the.
That's correct. That's
Right.
correct.
So, I mean, is there an actual code that we have to follow to put a block, or?
I don't believe so. And so, I mean, if they wanted to put one there, obviously the plan would be is that they will even use a 3'6" for warm-up and training.
Okay. Well, I questioned a few swimmers, and the consensus was having an 8th block would make for a more official size if you were doing even one-on-one school meets. Just-
Right.
I didn't
Right.
know how close we were to being able to add an 8th block, if it would be hard to add one more block there or not.
So there is room, and so even in this, you can see so then the transition, this is basically lane 8.
Well, I understand.
So, I mean,
the length.
technically, you could put one there.
Right. I just want to know, is there a code? I mean, I don't want it to be in violation of any code
Right.
for adding a block. I just,
Not that I'm aware of. I'm not aware of it, and I know through the discussion with the coaches that this was their preferred setup as to how we laid this out.
That was more for safety elements?
Yes, I mean, they would prefer to dive in. When they're diving in, they prefer to actually have the 6'7" inches versus having shallow water. From a competition standpoint, they like the full depth of the water too, just because of the movement of the water. But as far as code, because we'd gone through this when we did the Lamar natatorium, even the discussion was, we had all of the shallow at one end, where the discussion was they would swim over it, so they would actually swim from deep water into shallow water and back. But I don't believe that there's...
I don't have a problem with the layout of the pool. I just want to know if we added an 8th block, would we be in violation of the code? And if so, would it be easy to slope that?
We'll confirm that.
Softer?
We'll look into that, so it's a good question.
How much have we spent on design so far?
We've just gone through programming.
How much have we spent on programming so far?
So I'd have to go back. I don't recall what the percentage was established through programming.
We can get that for you. I don't have it with me, but.
And did anyone even like assess what a dive area would have cost in addition to this project? Was that even ever looked at?
Not as part of this. Not as part of this discussion. No. Not as part of this programming.
So no one even looked into what a dive area would cost? Put a platform.
No, but I mean, we could. It'd be a matter of, as far as trying to create a diving well out of it.
I mean, we're already spending, quite a bit of money. You're
looking at a much deeper transition.
So I mean, it's something we can certainly look into. It's just having a diving well at one of the ends.
Yeah. Just curious. I mean, if like I said, we're spending a lot, and our divers are going to be having to travel back and forth. If we're trying to eliminate athletics from having to these swimmers from traveling.
Right.
Is there, how many, do we have one dive coach still? Is that for the whole district?
One centralized dive coach, Erin Cooper, and she coaches the divers for the 4 high schools.
Okay. And at the net right now?
Pardon?
At the natatorium or at the new
natatorium.
Do you happen to know how many divers we have?
This past year, and I think I'm close, it was probably around 12.
Usually the amount of divers compared to swimmers is very small, which is probably why they want to save the money on the pool and just let them travel.
I think there was...
Many of them tend to be, probably the diving more than anything, they'll be seasonal because they compete in other things. And the other things that they compete in is what lends to their ability to be a diver.
Gymnasts.
Cheerleaders, have no fear.
So
Jump.
we basically go back to the purpose of this is a practice pool. That's the original. And that's what we wanted, the practice pool, in addition to the 4th grade element. And that's what you have set up now.
Correct. That was basically the charge when we
Right.
looked into it. But I mean, if we need to look into these others, I mean, we'd be happy to do that.
One other question, this probably isn't more y'all. So what about additional maintenance for the pools? Are we going to be hiring more staff if we end up building? I mean, will that be within?
That was we had that in discussion. How much was this going to cost to maintain it?
Yes, and we will be looking at additional guys to help just with the pool mechanics and water makeup of that thing, as well as all the pools. And then we'll have additional custodians at those locations.
And so do we have one person that maintenance manages the 2 currently, or do you have people on each side? Or?
We have pool tech and then we have custodians. We have one pool tech that handles both of these right now.
Is he work for the district, or is he?
Yes, sir.
That's all I got.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is material testing for Lindsay Elementary School.
This is for the new Lindsay Elementary School to recommend Terracon for construction materials testing. Terracon is also working with us on Bentley Elementary, number 24.
Any discussion?
Next item on the agenda is approval of Phil's Plumbing for the pipe repairs at Pink Elementary School.
As we've been looking at Pink Elementary School, during spring break, as you recall, we did video camera testing of all the underground piping in the school. We were surprised when we found that many sections of the cast iron storm drain and sanitary drain lines were corroded, gone, the bottom was gone of the pipe, and the water was eroding the dirt. So we've looked for the most efficient way to solve that problem, because essentially that water getting into the soil in the expansive soils is in part or all of contributing to the heaving of the floor slabs. So what we've done is we've decided to go in and replace those damaged sections of pipe. We had two looks. We had two approaches. One was to tunnel under the slab for the one sanitary line that had to be replaced, and Phil's Plumbing was the contractor that did that for us at Williams Elementary School last year. Has a very good reputation for how that was done. So you're basically cutting a small hole in the floor, and then they tunnel and follow the pipe, pull out the pipe, replace it. They will also inspect the pipes where they're connecting to with the TV camera to make sure that they go far enough to repair all the lines. On the storm drains, which are the roof drains coming off the roof, they collect in certain places, they come down interior in the building, and they run laterally underground. Those pipes, there's a lot more of those that are deteriorated. And so we anticipated that we would be probably abandoning those pipes underground and picking them up at the roof line and taking them out over the attic and dumping them outside the building. We ended up having that designed and priced. We also had a price for the same guy to do the tunneling. We felt that would be more efficient for him. It turned out that tunneling the storm lines was much cheaper than going overhead, because you're not messing with ceilings, light fixtures, all the stuff that's, because you're up quite high in those ceilings. So the recommendation here is to, for Phil's Plumbing, to replace storm and sanitary lines, approximately 500 lineal feet, maybe 515 lineal feet of pipe through tunneling. This will mean that we have a couple of spots in the floors that we have to do a repair, but that will save a lot less, they'll be a lot less disruptive than going into the ceilings. So with your approval, we would proceed when school is out, and that work will be done over the summer. Then what we'll do is we'll monitor that site over the next portion of the school year, see if it's stabilized before we go in and do the repairs on the inside to repair the cracks. But we don't want to do the repairs inside, have them fail again, and then have the same problem. So right now we're breaking this into a two-phase project.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Next item is the approval of design development for the Huggins Elementary School driveway improvements.
Huggins Elementary School, as you know, has a parent drop-off problem. There's not enough spaces for parents to pull off onto the site. So VLK is here to do a presentation about the design development where we are right now, and with your approval, we would continue on with design. Tim?
Yes. Thank you, Steve. Dr. Randall, President Kaminsky, members of the board, we're pleased to present to you for approval the DD presentation for the parent drop-off drive at Huggins Elementary School. This is the existing campus, and over the years, the school has grown, and as a result, there's been increased congestion both on-site and on the adjacent roads at Huggins Road, and then as well as onto Fulshire-Katy Road. Here are some existing photos of the main entry. And just to kind of orient everybody to the site, this is the main drop-off area, main entry of the school. There's a pattern in the morning for drop-off as well as a pattern in the afternoon. The existing morning drop-off car stacking, as you can see, we're getting about 11 cars off of the roads and onto the site. In the afternoon, the pattern changes a little bit where we're getting about 18 cars off the site, but as you can see, that we still are really needing quite a bit more stacking space at drop-off and pickup. The proposed plan takes a dual stacking lane on the east end of the site and works its way to the main entry. This also includes about a 100-foot length canopy. This will allow for about getting about 53 cars off of the streets. Once you come off of Fulshire Katy Road, it'll be dual stacking, and then as you approach the main entry, we'll have a merged lane to where you neck down to one row of cars. We can get about 8 cars right at that drop-off point where the covered entry drive is. As you can see, this is the existing canopy. This will be the new canopy that will tie into the existing building. And this is the overall length of the existing elevation. Here's the new proposed canopy. This will be, the existing school is a site cast concrete building. This will be a metal canopy, but it'll match the color of the existing building so that it looks like the canopy as well as the drive tie into the existing building. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
I had a,
For
go
those of you
ahead.
who have visited Huggins, you can understand why they do not want these cars out on the road. It's a precarious situation.
That's right.
I had a concern with your double lanes for the kids' safety. There's going to be parents are not going to wait to go veer into that one lane, and they're going to let their kids out and go across.
Right.
That is my main concern with that design there. Is there a road,
This is afternoon.
morning or afternoon?
No, but they're not doing the stacking in the morning, are they?
Yes.
They'll stack in the morning. too?
Morning and
Okay.
afternoon, so it works both ways.
It just-
I mean, that's just one of my concerns, the safety. And then, I know that daycare is there, that the children are crossing across that area right there
Right.
to go to that place. So I'm seeing kids moving around a lot.
We have a.
Is there a road, see where you have it, where that crossing is,
Mhm.
straight down? If you went straight down, could that be a road there? Would-
It could be. We'd have to look to see where the property line is. My colleague, Jander Ortiz, could probably answer that a little bit.
Within the property line, but I think there's an easement.
There's an easement.
There's an
Okay,
easement,
in
that's what
place.
would stop it?
Correct. And as you can see, there's some existing play fields on the north side, so we tried to stay out of that area. The intent was to get, again, as many cars off of the road as possible, so that was kind of why we brought it in from the top there.
We've had conversations out at the school with principals and the folks that help manage that parent drop-off, pickup about this. We know that we have to have it monitored for that, going from 2 lanes to 1. We're not just going to rely on, big buddy system.
people being
honor
nice.
system.
Well, I mean, they're
Yeah.
going to wait, they will wait, but they will have their kids get out of their cars so they're not late for school. And they'll wait their turn to get out.
Another reason was to ease the congestion. I mean, you have all the cars that are parking here coming and going, so we tried to, putting that up on this end here, separates the cars that are coming in and out that are at visitor parking times, parking their cars. So it allows for quite a bit of traffic up on this end as opposed to having it all down here on the south end of the site.
Okay, that side road, that Fulshire Katy Road,
Mhm.
could the parents go down and U-turn and use that as that's not a heavily traveled road, is it, at that time of the day?
Could they come down and?
Yeah, that road up the top. I'm thinking like one elementary school, they literally go into their residential area, 2 miles down, they're behind each other. If you utilize that road,
One of
Yeah,
if I may-
like put a little loop in there where they could turn around and come back and park on the road.
so it would eliminate the 2 lanes.
Sure. What I'm going to, another agenda item is a traffic study for the site
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Oh, okay.
We know that we're trying to get this going as quickly as possible, but we also know that, we have things that we want to make sure we are doing correctly. So with your approval, traffic consultant would be on board, and I'll go ahead and talk about that now, because they are set up to be able to do the traffic counts before school is out. We only have about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. So they'll be able to, with your approval, here tonight, get the traffic counts while school is still in session so they can see the volume of cars that we're dealing with. They'll look at the intersections, they'll make sure that what we're doing, works, and if not, we'll adjust in order to make sure that that does work. Because we are very concerned with the same things you're bringing up. Crossing, two lanes coming in for the crosswalk has to also be monitored. But this, of all the options that we've looked at, there's not a lot that we can do without redoing the whole front parking lots. I will note that also on the left, on the west side, the bus loop, we are adding about 53 parking spaces inside the bus parking area that will help relieve a lot of the parking congestion on site for events as well. But so those two features are part of this scope of work right now.
The other note I had was too, I question would the fire department have an issue with that being blocked? But I see that you have that traffic study on the next. I'm sorry, I didn't look that far.
That's okay.
But I can wait.
Will this designate that the school will need a crossing guard of some sort, or is that something the school will have to work on themselves?
That in and of itself would not necessarily designate a crossing guard, but you're going to have monitors out there to monitor that.
Well, some people are not going to want to let people get into the lane. We got to have somebody to direct them, hey, you're going to stop and let this guy in, and then go.
If you look at this design compared to what you have now, it is so much better.
Yeah.
And we can imagine all kinds of horrible things, but this is so much improved over where we are and so much safer. So, yeah, we could all express our concerns, but we're making a quantum leap here in improvement and safety for these kids. So.
And I can see that
Getting that many cars
for the
off the
double
street
lanes.
is a big plus.
Yes.
But the traffic study, patience.
We'll look at all that. We normally would do the traffic study before we get this far along, but in the interest of, now this work will be constructed next fall is the plan. So we will work out a phasing plan with the school so that we can probably build the parking first, give a little bit of relief to the front parking lot before we come back to the second. So those details have not been worked out yet, but they've been contemplated already.
The next item on the agenda is the traffic study.
Yeah, I just noticed that. I apologize.
Could I ask just one other question? I don't know if it's here or not. How many buses, I was going to ask Kevin, how many buses actually service Huggins? Are a lot of the kids riding the bus, or no?
I mean, right now, I think you're looking at about 5 or 6 buses. I don't know if Mike's here.
Yes, I think we have more than that. I think there's about 9 over there now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Next item is approval of geotechnical study for the driveway improvements. Again, that's done by Terracon.
Oh, I forgot to add that the funding for Huggins would be coming from surplus 2011 bond funds on all 3 of these items, so.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is approved contract amendment number 1 to Vanna Rice and Gardner with no additional cost to pick up the Huggins Elementary School driveway and parking improvements, chiller replacement, and the selection of an access control system for various schools.
Any questions?
No, thank you for stepping up.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, that was good.
Appreciate it.
Next item is consider approval of geotechnical services. We're actually approving Terracon for geotechnical engineering services for the design of agricultural facility number 2.
Any questions?
Next item is approval of Fisher Construction for the restroom renovations at Jackson Elementary.
How many restrooms are we talking about? Is that?
Approximately, I think there's three banks of restrooms. 3 sets of restrooms.
That'll bring all the restrooms up to the same standard. We renovated one a few years ago over there at Jackson, and this will bring all the rest of the restrooms up.
They'll all be the same?
Yes, ma'am.
Up to par, okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
The next item is approval of Terracon for material testing services to repair the existing and new detention ponds at the Fulshire site.
Any questions?
The next item on the agenda is approving A Rocket Moving and Storage for providing preliminary staff moving supplies for Bentley Elementary, Fulshire High School, and Lehman Junior High School.
This is a combination of the 2011 and 2014 bond programs. Right now, this is phase one. This is to get X number of boxes to the schools where staff will be moving from all three of those schools. We will come back in June, we assume, when the actual counts of how many teachers are moving from exact points to exact points. And then A-Rocket would give us a secondary proposal for those actual moving services. Right now, this is for provide the boxes. We've made our best guess estimate. We know it's wrong, but we'll true it up with a final proposal. This way, with your approval, next week boxes can be actually delivered to the schools so that teachers will have at least a week and a half or so to pack, and but the numbers are still in flux yet.
But this won't help with the moving them again when the new school for Bentley.
No, we'll do this
We'll have to do
process
it again.
Only the beginning.
That's right.
All right, thank you.
The next item is consider approval of final payment to Sterling Structures for the construction of the security vestibule at Bowie Elementary. The next item is consider approval of district property insurance coverage for a 2-year term from June 1 through May 31st with Lexington Insurance Company through McGriff, Siebel and Williams of Texas.
Any questions?
Any questions? This is, for us, one of the things that we did was to move this whole process before hurricane season. And it has shown quite a few dividends. As you notice here, our rates are actually lower this year than what they have been in previous years. So. The next item on the agenda is consider approval of resolution for censure of trustee.
And on that, I gave everyone a copy, and we have our lawyer here to answer any questions, if anyone has any discussion.
I guess I have a question. I was looking at the minutes from last month, and I didn't see this as an agenda item. I'm not sure what that's about, what this resolution, I guess, is about. I'm kind of confused. I didn't see it as an agenda item, or that it was a requested agenda item and in the minutes from last month.
In future agenda items, there was an agenda item, a request for discussion and possible action for the evaluation of board member performances. That was
It's right there.
What page is it?
that is on page 32.
Oh, okay, so it says discussion and possible action for the evaluation of board member performances. So we went from evaluation of board member performances to a resolution? That doesn't mean, I don't understand, that's a far reach. I mean, we're reaching like way far. I mean, my understanding is, like, first you have to do the evaluation. This seems like we went from evaluation to, I don't know what this is, a resolution. I don't even know what it's about at this point.
Well, I believe I do think that a copy of the proposed resolution has been distributed.
I'm not finding it.
It was on the top.
Not finding it.
Do you have a copy?
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah. Is there
So
any
I guess
discussion?
I'm still trying to figure out how did we go from A to Z? I guess you're the only one who can, I don't know how this, whose decision was to do this? Like,
It was my decision to bring it up that we needed to have a discussion at this next board meeting. And the evaluation was not discussed in there. It was possible action of board member performance.
well, this is
And that is what
considerable.
this resolution
This
is.
is an information, this is considered, we have it down here as an agenda item. And if
Right.
it were just for discussion or consideration or whatever you're trying to say right now, then it wouldn't be a formal agenda item where we're going to take action on it on Thursday. Am I correct?
My understanding was that the line item was consideration and possible action.
Discussion and possible action.
No, it doesn't say possible action. It says consider approval.
She's talking about the future agenda item.
Oh, so then I guess this shouldn't be an agenda item.
No, this was set up to be an agenda item.
Okay, but that's
Which
not
is-
what you're
which
saying
is
right
20
now.
It's
Which is
future from-
28.
Future from last month.
Well, see, what I'm just trying to find out is, so how did we go from evaluating a board member to placing, I guess, a consequence on a board member?
Well, that's what we need to discuss.
Well,
This
that's what I'm
resolution-
asking. That's the discussion. So can you discuss that for me?
Okay.
I'm asking you for an answer. How did you go from A to Z?
We had our discussion. We did not come up with the resolution at that time. So at the last board meeting, I requested that it be put back on the agenda.
What do you mean,
For-
put back on the agenda?
To be added to the agenda.
Oh, okay.
Who had the discussion? This was never discussed in front of me, and it's aimed at me.
This is why it was on the agenda, to discuss and possible decision
But that's not
on
what
this
the,
resolution.
but that's not what the agenda item is saying. This is an actual action item. So maybe it needs to be taken off. Because I'm not sure that you really understand what you want to do here.
I think it's very clear. There is a resolution that I, as the school board president, feel like, in response to the community's concerns and to our school board, that we have it documented, that there is a consequence to the behavior. And I talked to Mr. Morris, and this is the way that it was suggested to be put up as a resolution. I also talked to TASB, and this was the only option that we have.
That's
And
not
we
in
can
our
discuss.
school board operating procedures.
It says on here exactly the ethics, the LCISD School Board's Code of Ethics
You're-
violation.
The board is actually having the discussion, and you can't do that tonight. You can ask the questions, related to it, and
And if I could just weigh in on that, the Open Meetings Act does not prohibit this board from discussing the issue. Nevertheless, this board has had a long-standing practice of only taking questions about agenda items and discussing them at your regular board meeting.
I have a question. Inappropriate profanity directed towards board members. I didn't use any profanity towards y'all at all. What are you talking about?
It says previous displays of inappropriate profanity.
That means I would have had to have used profanity, and I hadn't.
Previous displays of inappropriate.
And you say here that things I said in the newspaper and social media, you got no say over that. You know, you let You let your buddy break the
Do
rules
we-
and attack people
Are
by
we getting
name?
into the discussion part of this?
The board's
I attack somebody who attacked me first.
The board's longstanding practice is to limit discussions at these meetings to questions about the agenda items and to actually deliberate them at your regular board meeting. That has been this board's longstanding practice. If that is the practice you want to continue to uphold, I do believe this is more in the nature of deliberations.
Deliberations, which should go to the board meeting.
If you
Thursday.
want to continue to uphold the practice that you have been following.
And what do you know of my behavior in social media?
I can look at your texts.
You can?
I have.
Where'd you get them?
I prefer that we do go into closed session if we're going to go into that details, I think.
If
you have, I just say this, we don't have to go into closed session. If you have my text, present them at the meeting.
If the board,
Present them at the meeting.
If the board desires, if there is any question that implicates the legality of this issue, and I can only assume that if there are questions, they both implicate the personnel exception to the Open Meetings Act and the attorney-client privilege discussion exception, then I would move to closed session if you have those types of questions. I believe you have you should move into closed session if those questions are on the table. If they're not, then you wouldn't have to go into closed session.
But if we do this Thursday, we do go into closed session into this discussion.
If you have questions that of a legal nature and questions that would clearly implicate the personnel exception, because of course trustees are part of that personnel exception, then you certainly could go into closed session, just as you could tonight. But if there are no more questions about the topic, you don't have to go into closed session. But if there are, I would encourage you to move into closed session.
If y'all want to try to take me down, let's do it in open session. I don't want to go to closed session. You bring your evidence, whatever you got.
Okay, then we'll just go to Thursday. That's in agreement with everyone?
And certainly you would have the opportunity Thursday,
Well,
by
we'll
all means.
continue, we'll continue
I guess I
this on
have another
Thursday.
question, is that, is this going to be the rule of thumb for everyone? I guess I have to ask you, since this was your idea.
It's, the rule of idea is
Because
if
then
I
we
break,
need one for you too. Because
then
we would need to do one for you too, and one for Mr. Steenburgen and Harold.
If I go according to our code of ethics, there is a violation that I consider to be in violation of one of our board members, and that's just the simple code of ethics, is what I was addressing.
Well, that's fine,
yeah,
but
I
you
mean,
know,
the code of ethics
we
has
will
been
go
violated
Thursday.
by all three of you as well.
We will go Thursday into discussion.
I think I'm discussing it right now. I mean, I'm raising the question. You know, if we're going to begin this standard of practice, then we have to do it for the three of you. I mean, you haven't acted with honor and conduct and
Well,
integrity
I
of
think that
character either.
we have an agenda item that is
she
related
committed a
solely
conflict
to
of,
this.
a conflict of ethics. That's a felony. She at least needs to be censured for that. Realistically, we should have filed charges on her.
As your counsel, I'm just warning you not to stray from the agenda item that is here before you. Certainly, if the board desires to delve into other issues as you're bringing up, there will be opportunities to do that. But because this is the only one posted for tonight, I would encourage you to, if you have questions, that they relate to the one on the table.
Okay. So that we will do that Thursday.
My question hasn't been answered, I guess.
They're not going to
Is this
answer.
going to be a standard practice for the board, or we're
This will
just
be for our
kind of,
discussion on Thursday.
we're just kind of zeroing in on certain people?
We're
I mean, is
only,
that
we're
what
only
you're doing,
dealing
Ms.
with one
Kaminsky?
subject as to what happened on March 24th. There's going to be closure. There's going to be a consequence for discussion on Thursday for what happened on March 24th events.
Okay,
That's the way we'll do it on Thursday.
okay.
It's an awful
So I guess
cowardly
I'm-
way to try to get at somebody.
I'm just confused still.
The next item on the agenda is election of board officers, and that will occur on Thursday, as well as consider authorization to use current facsimile plates that we have to do if officers change. The next item is consider approval of interactive whiteboard build-out project and for hardware services and supplies. I think we've had several discussions about this. Any questions on that? If not, the next item on the agenda is an information item regarding research regarding stability balls and classroom use.
I also had Ms. Bosick print out 4 other studies and articles that kind of back the some of the benefit that balls or movement chairs can have to children or other people's. Sorry, I didn't get those here sooner. But.
Okay. I actually, when our district started buying stability balls, I did a little research, and these 4 articles will come up on Google search rather quickly. If you look at eric.gov, which is where peer-reviewed scientific research is housed, to date there's no scientific proof that stability balls will impact achievement. When we look at these 2 articles on autism and on language and learning disabilities, or students who might be in the autism spectrum somewhere, for example, Asperger's syndrome, in ERIC there's quite a bit of research for occupational therapy, students with developmental delays, improvement of core strength, and some articles on autism. For widespread use in the general population, what you find is, for example, the Bree Campbell article at Northwest Missouri, which are student research papers, which isn't to discount them. They're not scientifically done. For example, they don't have matched groups of like intellectual capacity and achievement records in the control group versus the group that was using the stability balls. They tend to have one incidence, for example, the addition and subtraction activity. And again, it's not to discount them, but from a scientific peer review, they don't give significant substantiated evidence at this time. They are a big indicator, however, of the interest in stability balls, and we have quite a few of our campuses that are working with them.
What's the cost per unit of a regular classroom chair?
A regular classroom chair currently is running about $23.94.
So stability will be about half of that?
Excuse me, what students are you focusing in on? Because not every classroom has a need for this.
That's correct. In Texas, site-based decision-making is one of the, it's under the auspices of the principal and the teachers at each campus level. And so of the campuses that purchase these, they tend to have a specific student in mind or a specific group or collaborative activity that they're going to be using them in. There are many types of innovative furniture that are out there. I just returned from a conference where they have quite a few iterations of furniture that's being designed that encourages collaborative learning and project-based learning right now. And so we're looking at a lot of different things. Stability balls happen to be one of those. The company was Meteor Education Design Company, and they had just a plethora of different types of tables, chairs, and even technology that can be used in different combinations. So it's on the horizon out there that there is a trend in more innovative furniture in classrooms.
What about storage?
That's a good question.
Yeah, where do we
Ms.
store?
Leach and I have discussed that. I'm
Not
gonna
as
let
easy
you
as
handle
stacking
that one.
chairs.
There is not available storage cabinets or holders for the stability balls. Now with the, if you turn the page to the wobble stools, they actually do have like a piece of equipment that you can hang the stools on. Most of the things that we've seen, and we do have a variety of things across the campuses, we've seen where they've actually been used as kind of an optional type seat. We do have rocker chairs across the district, some in our nicer libraries with the wood, and then we also have some that are in the classroom. We've also seen some trends in looking at brighter furniture, things that are allow the students to be comfortable and maybe just kind of lean back in a chair without actually having a rocker base on them. There's a lot of really neat things that are coming out. I was explained to Valerie today, we had our first request for stand-up desks. So we actually have a campus that's curious about what those, how they might help the students in the
I've
classroom.
heard of this, and
Yes, sir.
where do we store, I mean, because the classroom I saw, they just had them pushed under the desk like the chair would be. So like during the, do we store those somewhere during the summer, or do they stay?
No, they stay in the classrooms. Typically, they're moved with the regular classroom furniture when they're coming in to wax the floors and things, but they essentially are loose in the room, and probably the desk is the one thing that's securing them into that one tight space.
I think the storage challenge will probably come into play when you change teachers, and the new teacher coming in elects to use conventional types of desks, then that has to be stored somewhere. And I think that's where your storage issue will probably be a challenge.
The price point on this particular ball is the cheapest ball, and it's not typically recommended necessarily for classroom use. They usually have little nibs on the bottom of them, the more high-end balls, and they're safer because as the student stands up, then the ball doesn't, it can squirt out, if you will, and cause havoc in the classroom.
But this is the one that you saw at the campus that you referred to.
This teacher loved them.
I have a question now.
Students.
On the first one, the stability balls, would this be more toward the special needs? Because as I'm reading on, it says, for the appropriate use of the stability ball, it is important to fit each student to the right size ball.
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's rules, and teachers have to be aware of the safety and distraction issues.
Yes.
So are we talking more about the special needs programs, or are we talking about just general classes?
That would apply to general classes. In some of the articles that I read, and again, these were not peer-reviewed research, but in one of them, for example, about 40% of the students liked them, about 33% of the students didn't like them, and the rest of them didn't care. The issues that you just mentioned apply to them in every classroom. So for example, 6-year-olds tend to grow quite a bit during the year, and you would want the teacher to be knowledgeable enough to inflate it larger, and you'd want the quality of ball that could be inflated to different sizes as the students grew.
And are you having a lot of requests, or is this just something novel we're just looking into?
I wouldn't say at this point in time. I think we have about 77 stability balls throughout the thousands of students that we have at the elementary level. So I would say that right now teachers are just beginning to experiment with them. Every new item of furniture or instructional material has that Hawthorne effect. So we really haven't had them in the district long enough to know if it's sustainable gains.
I ran into the wobble chairs over at Ferradondo. The assistant principal over there, she had one in her office. She said, I highly recommend these, so some people really like them. I think the kids can't go to sleep on them.
They're very kid-friendly.
Well, I would see that even an IEP would, if you were having an art and there was issues with ADHD or a child having, that these are just other options, I guess, that they can put out there that we can maybe offer a teacher that has I don't want to say just special needs, but a child that needs
It would certainly be a strategy that you could deploy for a student who had difficulties. Typically, in the scientific sense, they're used for students who have core issues and physical therapy issues. And our you don't have to buy a special desk.
Discuss on Thursday, we can. No more questions, y'all. We'll discuss more on Thursday. Thank you.
Next item is tax collection report. Region 4 maintenance report. Gilbane report.
No questions?
2014 bond.
No questions?
Transportation update.
No questions?
Available funds, 2011 available funds, additional fence. We've placed kind of a general overview of bond planning, since we did not have it in last month's board agenda. It is in this month's board agenda that basically covers the information that was shared with you at the last meeting about when schools are going to be needed to be open, as well as what bond committee makeups would look like. And we also shared the 2014 bond planning timeline. We had, at a point earlier, there had been a request regarding program management comparison. And so we pulled that information, updated it, that gives some comparisons between program managers versus not having program managers. And we've got staff here to answer any questions that you may have regarding the Lamar Consolidated High School, the junior high, and Westendorf mascot. And if somebody would just kind of share with the board what your thinking is, I think it is a very positive thing that's occurring in the blue track.
Good evening. We're here today just to propose that the Blue Track School have a common mascot. The three secondary Blue Track schools have met, and we think that it will be very, very beneficial to our schools and our community if we have the common mascot. So we're requesting that proposal tonight. What we have put together is just a little package of information in regards to our seal, our motto, and the mascot. The mascot would be the Mustangs, and again, all three secondary schools would have the Mustang as the mascot. In that photo of information, once again, you'll have our official seals for each of the secondary schools. The junior high school and the middle school currently do not have a motto or pillars, so we did not place that in their seals. But when you get to the Lamar High School seal, you'll see our 4 pillars there. In addition to that, we've shown you our mascot, which will be the Mustang for all 3 high schools. And our motto for all high schools would be, Go Big Blue, we ride with pride.
Did you work through the site-based teams with these, or is this just
Actually, the high school, the secondary principals, we had been working together. We've mentioned it to our campus leadership teams, not so much our site-based teams, but they're all on board with it. But one of the things that we were looking to is to find ways in which we could work more closely together, develop more stronger community and school partnerships, and also a way for us to transition our schools from middle school to high school very smoothly and with a lot of familiarity. And we believe that this is quite frankly, the easiest way to get something like that started.
When you enter Westendorf, you're a Mustang from then all the way through.
So you're not a pony anymore?
Not a pony.
You're a
full-grown Mustang.
No ponies, no coats.
I think it's a great concept.
Being a high school, Lamar High School graduate, I am all for it.
Thank you, Madam President.
They can
Thank
still
you.
wear the same
Yeah,
mascot look, because
Well,
it's still, they all look. It'll be the same. It's just called something.
And actually, the traditional mascot is on Westendorf, the marquee.
Right.
So it's already there.
Right.
And I know sixth graders love anything that has to do with Lamar Junior High
Right.
or Lamar High School. They love it.
Exactly. Yeah.
They take the pride.
They do.
They do.
They take the pride. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any questions? No? Great
Thank
job.
you for your
Great
support.
job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And you will actually receive a presentation on equal opportunity schools on Thursday. Madam Chairman,
Any other
those are all of the agenda items.
Does anyone have any questions, or we're at the point we can adjourn and be ready for Thursday? All right. Meeting is adjourned. It is 8:01.